Evening. If you've got a winning team, best not to change it. And I think we've got a winning team. Regulars on the show. Heroes from both sides of the city. Heroes too strong? No, it's not too strong. Absolutely not too strong. Kevin Gage, former Sheffield United. John Pearson, former Sheffield Wednesday. No further introduction needed. Both of them actually match day hosts, so heroes kind of thing to this day behind the scenes. You work on match days. What does that involve before we get into the nitty gritty of talking about the Owls and the Blades and how they've started the season and going back a few years as well? What does that involve for you, Kevin?
Well, I work in the TC suite, restaurant, lounge, whatever they call it these days, and there's usually about 200 odd people in there having their meal, etc. Yeah. So I see people as they come in. There's a mixture of regulars and season ticket holders and people who just have a meal for that particular game. And I get up on stage and we have a bit of a chat about, well, I do the talking, but I have a chat about last week's game, this week's game, anything that's been in the news, any gossip that has been we found out about. Tony Curry's in there he's the club ambassador, so he eats there all the time. So we get Tony up on stage occasionally, talk to him, have a little interview. He's always got a guest, so it's usually an ex-player. So we get them up on stage and talk to them. Just anything really. I've got carte blanche to make it as interesting as possible.
Yeah. Say what you like.
Well, within reason.
Within reason, but the great thing about last season and this so far is there's been no call to say anything remotely critical. Whereas I think you were sorely tested in a recent season. Shall we go back 2 years? I think you were sorely tested, weren't you? Now, be honest about this.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that under Nigel Adkins and at times in the past we haven't been very good at all as a club and as a team, and it's difficult to be positive in that situation. But people don't, if they're coming for the experience and the meal and the match day hospitality at Sheffield United, they don't want somebody up on stage moaning and groaning, do they?
Not really.
John's the same.
Yeah, I mean, and that must be really hard, quite challenging for you during that period to keep spirits high and.
Yeah, but that's part of the role, I don't want to flannel people and say it's brilliant when it's not. But the good thing is, before the game, you can always be optimistic. You can talk about last week or what's happened in the past, but there's always the game to come, so you can always look forward and be positive.
And you're not appearing after the game in any way, shape or form, really. So you're similar, John. You host the lounges. In fact, I've seen you shuttling from between many lounges. It's almost like you're having to go this one, that one, that one.
Yeah, at one point we had about 5 lounges that we had to go around. I think we're down to about 2 or 3 now. We go through the boxes as well upstairs. And very similar to what Kevin does. We get an ex-player, interview them. We do dualies, and then we do the 1867. And yeah, it's great. I really enjoy it.
Okay, well, we're going to look back at both of your careers, the way that your career started, because it struck me today, we'll do this in about the middle of part 1, struck me that you share something slightly in common about the way your career started. You both kind of have a distinction at your first 2 clubs. And we'll come to that a bit later on, because on Twitter I posed a question today and absolutely nobody knew the answer, what it was that you shared in common, and neither of you two really did either. I mean, so it's been news to you as well. Let's just, the way the season started, I'm going to take a stab that, for Sheffield United it's more a par for the course plus. For Sheffield Wednesday, maybe slightly below par for the course so far.
I would say Preston, definitely. That was below par for Sheffield Wednesday and what is expected and what they can do. But I think game by game, we've got better. The Sunderland QPR home game ends up in a draw. I think that's something that we would have looked forward to winning. I thought we had chances again. Second half, we seemed to gel more in the second half. The Sunderland game, I really enjoyed it. And although we drew it, I look back to last season when we had a couple of wins. I said to my mates, you know what, I've enjoyed that game 100 times more than I enjoyed us playing against Rotherham and Barnsley last year, and we won those 2 games. But the way we played and the style we played, and I thought it was coming together. And then we go down to Fulham on Saturday, and it was a really tough game. Sessignon and Adoy down that left-hand side in that first half with different class. And I think they've just signed a new left-back, haven't they, Fulham? So I would expect Sessignon to be on his way. He was unbelievable. 17-year-old. He was frightening. He just stood out so much. But what a team performance from Wednesday. You know, I thought they battled, they got back in. It was a proper football match. You know, it went 10-0, it went 5-all. It was close. We had a lot of chances. We created a lot. I think I love Hooper. I love how he receives a ball and he always knows where he's going to go next. I think Fletcher's perfect foil for him up front, and those two gelled really well. And I thought, as a team, they found a way to beat Fulham.
And I know that you're a fan of Adam Reach as well. We'll come to that in a minute. You know, and just when it seems to be right, it goes wrong again, like at Bolton in the cup in midweek.
Yeah, but and we took 2,500 fans away. So it just seemed to me on Tuesday as though we went back to a little bit slow again. I mean, we still created loads of chances. I mean, the first half we must have missed 4 clear chances. So we were still creating. And we probably went one down against the run of play, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang. I mean, it happens in games sometimes. And then last 15 minutes, we were all over them, and really should have equalised.
But you can certainly see a difference in approach this season, even though it's not been constant for 90 minutes, and the starts have been a bit slow.
But I agree with
what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with Carlos in the fact that the performance, if you keep sustaining that level of performance, the results will come. You know, if you're just trying to you know, any way to win a match at like last year we won games that weren't pretty or in doing with the season before. You know, I thought the season before was the best I've ever seen from a Wednesday football side. Now I didn't see the early 90s because I was still playing, so you know, people don't come back at me because I didn't see David Hurst and Chris Waddle and all that. You know, but for me, that
I did. That was better.
Well, yeah, exactly. But Carlos's
and
first
of course, Gage was involved in the other side of the city.
I can vouch for they were quite a good team.
Yeah. Well, Sheffield United, quite a good team. They've gone up. Now then, 2 wins, 2 defeats. Hey, would you take that? Given those for the first 4 league results, would you take that?
I would have snatched your hand off at the start of the season for 2 wins and 2 defeats, to be honest, being you know, very objective about it. People get a bit carried away saying we're going to storm through the division because we've done it before. We have previous, of course.
Yes.
But it's different times now and it's a different style of team. But really, really pleased with the way they've started. Yeah. Lots of positives.
Could have beaten Barnsley 3 or 4-0 and people would have been raving about the performance more if that had been the case. Yeah. Didn't happen. Is that still a concern for you, that position up front? We know that Billy Sharp will score goals. Got 2 already. Is there enough ammunition apart from him?
Well, there's not, is there? I think most people can see that. I'm sure Chris can see that, and he's alluded to it. You know, even today he's talking about bringing some players in. So yes, we are a little bit light up front. If that's one area that we need to improve and strengthen, then that's it. I was saying to John earlier, with the complete opposite to maybe, you know, Sheffield Wednesday, a bit top heavy up front, you know. So we need to strengthen that area, definitely.
You've got people who possibly can and have, Ched Evans and Keelan Lavery. Lavery has performed at Championship level before at Sheffield Wednesday, but nobody kind of ready-made who you can put your hat on and say, hey, they're going to score goals. Which is what you're talking about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's expecting maybe too much of Ched. Everybody's expecting him to be the player he was 3-4 years ago, whatever. And it's going to take a long time. Now, have we got that time to wait? Can we wait that long for him to come good? I don't know. Lavery's been in and out, you know, he joined us at the middle of last season, at the start of last season. He's been in and out recently without nailing down a place, and he hasn't shown enough to nail a place down this season, to be honest.
Do you think he was slightly better in midweek against Leicester? He got a goal, but beyond that...
Yeah, he got a goal, but if he was shooting, he shouldn't have been shooting. And if it was a cross, it was a poor cross, it was a rubbish cross. So he hasn't done enough for me, and I think for most people. And I don't see them two being, you know, either of them at the moment being the strike partner for Billy if Billy is assured of his place, which nobody's saying he is at the moment. No,
but he's got 2 goals, which is great, and you would think he's nailed it down for certainly for the time being. But Chris Wilder will not. He's loyal but not sentimental, as I wrote in a column recently. Yeah, doesn't matter who you are.
Exactly, yeah. Which is the right way to be. He'll be ruthless about it, and. Well, the good thing about Chris, what happened last year, the success we had last year, will be completely forgotten about, and it won't count for a dicky bird really this season. And everybody start with a clean slate.
I remember a former Sheffield United manager who had a similar attitude. when it came to things like that, and you played for him.
Well, we're talking about Bassett, of course,
Yeah.
and Chris will have learnt an awful lot of Bassett, and I know he still speaks to him regularly. So, yeah, his thinking, he's his own man. He'll do things his own way, but of course he's going to be influenced by people throughout his career. Yeah.
We're going to come to you for the big conundrum. David Brooks almost demanding to play, not because of what he's saying, but by the way he's playing. And Chris Wilder at the centre, and how he's going to accommodate him, if he accommodates him this weekend against Derby. We'll talk to you about what Adam Reach is bringing to Wednesday. And like you, I've been a fan of him for some time, and I think we're starting to see the best of it. But in the meantime, before we go to those current topics, let's go back a few years. Well, actually more than a few years. So that's kind of slightly tenuous connection between you at the start of your careers. Look, photograph number 1. Let's exhibit 1, exhibit A. Right, this is a Sheffield Wednesday striker in the days when they played in stripes, and the days when they played in black and white as well. You did play in black and white in those days,
looks like
didn't you?
it, doesn't it?
This is John Pearson. We'll see it again. Let's just put it up because this picture's better than our ugly mugs. You're heading a goal here. In April 1980, sorry, not April, September the 15th, 1980.
13th, I can remember it.
Really? Yeah. Your programme, I've got this out of a match programme, which said September the 15th, and they got it wrong.
No, I think you've just...
I've just got it wrong.
You've got
Copied it down wrong, all right. So, September the 13th, 1980, and a 2-1 win against Bristol City.
Yeah.
Now, there's something more special about it than that, because you were 17 years old and 2 months.
No, 13 days.
13 days and 2 weeks. Oh, I've got. Oh well, I've got all over. But it's not very good.
It must be another player. It might not even be me.
Can we just go back to the start of the show and start again? You were 17 and 13 days.
Yeah.
Right. And the significance of that being?
Well, I believe that I'm the youngest player to score for Sheffield Wednesday.
And that applies to this day, does it?
Yes, as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay, well, congratulations, because until I saw that recent programme feature...
You did tell me, didn't you?
The day, I just said, I
you didn't
can't
know
believe
that.
it, I didn't know this.
The thing about it, I mean, it was so special for me because I lived 200 yards away from the ground.
Yeah.
My parents were away on holiday at the time, and we didn't have any mobile phones or anything, so I didn't even know I was being picked until the morning. So I've gone, played, scored. My dad, who's carted me around everywhere since I was a kid, doesn't even know I played until he gets the paper on the Sunday morning, has an heart attack. He's running back like to tell my mother, and he has an heart attack.
So he sees the paper and he sees,
so
he reads the result, he just sees Pearson.
He just knew nothing about it until he picked the paper up on the Sunday. But we were back next week for the QPR game, and I scored again.
Oh, you scored again?
Yeah, I scored in my first 4 games. And I thought it was easy. Where did it all go wrong?
Well, that goal that we saw there was a header, not surprisingly, because you're a tall lad and you've got even taller since then.
It was
close range, obviously.
The second one was against QPR. It was a diving header, and Chris Woods was in goal. The third one was against Watford in the League Cup, and that was a header. And then the next game was Swansea away, and he was a left footer from outside the box, and I don't think he ever did that again.
No, outside the box, great.
And,
I think he's making these up.
Yeah,
we have got from outside the box. I'm not having that.
We've got no evidence. I've got no evidence to support any of these claims. I've just got that first one there.
Well, it's in the record books.
In the win, was it? And I believe from chatting to you, you also hold the record for the youngest Wednesday goal scorer in both the cups, don't you?
Well, the League Cup was after the QPR game, so that was 10 days later. And then we played Newcastle around whenever the third round is. It might have been December or whatever. And in the papers, it's Ante Mirocevic or Pearson, who's going to play tomorrow. And I got picked and managed to score. But Chris Waddle, I'm not sure if it was his debut, but he took the glory because he scored 2 goals for Newcastle.
Right, on that
particular day. So, it was all about Chris Waddle.
Yeah, it must have been weird for your family and your parents to be away and come back. And
like I said, he nearly had a heart attack. Well, I was nowhere near. No, there was no sort of scent or smell that I was going to be in the team.
This was under Big Jack, wasn't it?
Big Jack, yeah.
I got that bit right. Yeah. Everything else is suspect, but we think you're still the record holder. Right, that was Exhibit A, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a good one.
This is Exhibit B. Let's have a look at this. Right, now who the hell's that? And who the hell is that?
He was the lead singer in Kajagoogoo, if you're old enough to remember that band many years ago.
Well, I recognise the strip, I think.
It's quality,
if nothing else about that. That's Wimbledon, eh?
Yeah, that's Wimbledon about 1985, I think, something like that, 84, 85.
And the thing the slight tenuous link is that you remain, I think, the youngest ever player in Wimbledon's history.
Yeah, and that record will never be broken. It's impossible to be broken because they don't exist anymore, of
it's
course.
AFC Wimbledon.
FC, yeah. AFC Wimbledon now.
Nobody can take that off you. Now, you were just turned 17, were you not?
Yeah. It was the last game of the season and we were champions, so Dave threw me in, so to speak.
Right.
I'd been on the bench actually against Doncaster, Billy Bremner's Doncaster. We're going back a few years now because he was still playing. He was playing manager. So I'd been on the bench at 16 and I was still an apprentice. I mean, the old collecting the cones and cleaning the boots. But I was around the first team squad and I was a midfielder back then, so I could play anywhere. Yeah. And they just threw me in and I was itching to get on, but it never happened.
Well, apart from Sessignon, who you mentioned at Fulham, who's 16 now.
17, I think he's 17, yeah.
But he came in at 16. Players can have to wait a bit longer now, can't they?
Yeah.
Than they did then. Like George Hurst, for instance, at 18, banging them all in.
But he's special. That's the first time I've seen him live, and he was down our side, and he was different class.
Yeah, I saw him absolutely outstanding at Newcastle last year. He got to fantastic. Just before the break, we've got like 3 minutes to talk about David Brooks. It's probably not long enough. I mean, Chris Wilder openly admitting when I spoke to him in midweek that this guy's given me, well, not a problem, a great problem, and that he's almost demanding to be selected now in the Championship. Let's not talk about where he's going to play him, if he plays him. Should he play on Saturday against Derby, Brooks?
I think he should. I think he will as well, because we've got a suspension. We've got Leon Clark was sent off, and there's a place up front.
That's where you play him, is it?
I think that's not where I personally choose to play him in an ideal world, but I think on Saturday, because of the way the squad is and the suspensions are, I think that's the place he might get his debut. You're
the second esteemed former United player to say that to me today, to guess the same. David Holdsworth, former skipper, who will be a guest on the show next week, by the way, said the same during a personal training session this morning. For him, not me.
Sometimes it just works out like that, and you throw the cards in the air and you find out how they fall, and it just might be the break that he needs. I don't think it's in an ideal world. I don't think Chris would be looking to play him from the start for a couple of months because it doesn't suit the way we play at the moment. But I think it just may fall that we have to play him, and it may be the best thing that's happened to him and Sheffield United.
With the pace that he's got, that United haven't got in that position.
But he's far from just a pacey forward. He runs quicker, it seems, with the ball than without the ball, which is quite weird, isn't it, if you think about it? But he's got this marvellous way of dragging the ball past people, and good close control.
You wouldn't want him running at you when you play fullback.
There's ways and means of dealing with players like that.
I wonder what those are.
At Wimbledon.
You've got to catch him first. But the other thing is that logically, if you were considering for a role in the team, that ideally, at the moment, it would be the Mark Duffy playmaking role behind the strikers. But Duffy's playing too well, isn't he?
Duffy was man of the match on Saturday by quite a way, in my view, and a lot of other people's view as well, because he gets hold of the ball and he makes us play, and he teases little balls in there, and he slows the game down, which is sometimes a very good thing, because it's helter-skelter sometimes, and he slows it down and allows people to get into their positions. Although they could potentially play in the same position, Brooks and Duffy, they are actually totally different. Totally different players. Because Duffy's not quick.
No,
he's a passer of the ball.
But it'd be too lightweight with them together, you think?
In the centre of the midfield, definitely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Kevin Gage's shout, possibly one to look out for. The young Brooks playing up front at the Lane at the weekend. We'll talk about Adam Reach, many other topics, both Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United, after the break. See you in about 5 minutes. See you then.